Visit Sailrite.com for all your project supplies, tools, and instructions.
Hi, I'm Eric Grant with Sailrite. In this video, we're going to show you how to install a vent in a cover. We're not going to go over making this entire cover, but there's an issue with this cover. This cover sits on a bench on a boat, and there is a drawer refrigerator on the back side. The problem is you can't run the refrigerator because the cover covers the vent, and the vent is required to be left open. So if I unsnap the cover, you can see the vent here. We're going to make a vent in the cover the same size as this vent. So we're going to snap the cover back into position, and we're going to take a fabric marking pencil, and I can feel the vent. So this is the outside edge here, and here, and here, and here. And we have one on the opposite port and starboard side, the exact same thing. So we're going to do the same thing over there. So what we've done is, here's our line, and we basically made a box to make sure everything is square and parallel to the edge. And we came in a 1/2 inch from where we marked. And we're going to draw a 45 here to make a mitered corner. So we're just using our fabric marking and doing that at all 4 of the corners here. So I have my tempered cutting glass on the bottom side, and to make sure the edges don't unravel, I'm going to use the Sailrite Edge Hotknife, and I'm going to cut on the interior line that we have, and we're also going to cut the 45s as well. We have 2 Sailrite Edge hot knives. This is the one that has no cables, so we can easily use it outdoors like we're doing here. And now for the miter, we're just going to cut in like that. We could use scissors for this too if you want to be a little bit more accurate. There we go. Those edges are not going to unravel. Now, when this is going to be folded back, so it gives us a finished look. And sometimes you want to cut a little bit deeper. I'm just going to use scissors to go a little bit deeper here. Since I use scissors, I'm just going to touch the edges that I cut with a hot knife just to make sure that those don't unravel as well. So we're using the Phifertex. This is a standard mesh. It's a vinyl coated polyester, and this is a sample size. I don't have to buy a whole yard for a job like this. You can just buy samples from Sailrite. It's a 6x6, this sample is. Make sure that you confirm your sample size before you do your project. So we're going to flip this over because we're going to put double-sided tape on this. This is a small enough hole that we don't have to worry about cutting it out. Okay, we've turned it over and we're working from the underside. If this were a large application, in other words, the hole was much larger, I would probably sew it in and then cut it out and then make the miters. But this is so small, this is pretty easy to do by cutting out the material, then adding the vent. Okay, so now we're going to peel off the transfer paper and reveal that glue on all of these pieces. Then we're going to take this back and we're going to fold it to the mitered corner on each one of these areas. Okay, once we have that folded back, and you can look at this is the wrong side. You can look at the front if you'd like. Now we're just going to put double-sided tape right on top of those areas on all 4 sides. Peel off the transfer paper. This one has a reinforcing flange here for fasteners, so it's a little bit thicker than all the other ones, which is totally fine. Now we take our sample piece of the Phifertex and we lay it on top of this application. Try to center it as best as possible. Now she's basted in place. So I'm going to set the stitch length to about 5 millimeters. 6 millimeters is fine too, but we're only sewing something fairly small. Reverse is already set there. And I really want to sew a sample piece just to see if I've got good tension. So I'm just using that scrap. And let's see what we got. We want the knots to not be on the top side, which they are a little bit on the top side, which means there's none on the bottom. So I'm going to reduce some of the upper tension just a little bit, and let's do it again. Ah, that's perfect. So look how sweet this is going to look. So I'm just going to feed it into the machine. And we're going to sew, probably use the left side of the center foot as our guide, and make sure that the hem is going the right direction. Here at the beginning, I'm just going to sew a little bit of reversing like that. When I get to this corner, I'm going to have my needle be buried like that, and I think if I pivot now on the needle, that I think it'll end up being perfectly positioned. Let's find out. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just about perfect. It's a little bit on the inside, but let's see. I'm actually going to go turn it back and do a half stitch. And the reason how you do a half stitch is you lower your foot and you use the reverse lever. So I'm going to roll the balance wheel by hand and then press on the reverse lever so that my stitch shortens up, and then I've entered the fabric, and then I want that needle coming up a little bit. So now when I pivot, I should have it perfect. I'll set up and show you. Yeah, that's perfect. So now we can just come down this side. And we'll do the same thing at all the corners. And when we get to the beginning, we're going to reverse over top of our previous stitches. So let's bury that. Probably need to go half stitch more, right about there. Needles coming up, rotate. We have 3 sides sewing, and there are a couple things you can do here. You can either force all the material through the throw of the sewing machine and sew in forward here to this stitch, which is quite a bit of labor, or you can do some reversing here and actually pull the fabric out and sew down, or well, in this case I'd sew up. But I've got my needle buried, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just force the material through so that I can make this turn. Okay, so now I have enough material through that I can easily sew this area. So I'm going to lower my foot here and we'll sew down. And when I get to here, I should have probably reversed a little bit closer to that corner. I'm going to find the spot right across from the stitches. I'm going to turn it one more time and do some reversing right on top of my other reversing stitches. So we can just turn this around pretty easy like this. Okay, we've got our vents in place, and we just put it over top of our beautiful bench. And we'll snap it in and show you what it looks like. Now you can see we've got our vent right over top of what we need for the fridge drawer. So if you've got a cover and you have condensation building up on the inside, maybe it doesn't breathe as well as you'd like, this is exactly the process you want to do to install vents in other areas. Now obviously you wouldn't want to install this in an area where the water's going to run through, but we're putting it in the side, so it'll provide great ventilation for our fridge. But there are other applications like this that it can become useful in, like in a grill cover or maybe your helm station. Vents like that are necessary for good ventilation.
Here's a look at the tools and materials we used to complete this project. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call or email. We're glad to help.